welcome back to Tony Northeastern, and I hope you're all keeping well and safe, what with the bad weather we've been having recently. And right, what we're going to be doing this week is looking at our platforms. What you see in front of you at the moment is the buffer stops has now been installed, and they are gauge master buffer stops, and all I've done is just painted them, and I've added a couple of LEDs. The one on the left and the one on the right have both got LEDs. I haven't done the middle one just as yet, but I might do that one, or I might just leave that one off, because the one on the left and the one on the right are the head shunts of the end of the line, so the engines will always be running up those two. The middle one will be just a siding, I think, but I might put one there. I'm not sure, but we'll see. Anyway, the bridge has been removed, so that has just been put aside for the moment until the platforms are done and the ballasting's been done and all the groundwork in that area is complete. So let's look at how I'm going to do these platforms. So the first thing I have to do is extend the edge of this baseboard just to form the extra width across here. So I made this kit up. So I have the top and I have all the buttons. So the first thing I'm going to do is make up the framework for the new top. Here is the framework just loosely placed on top of the top that's already pre-cut. So this is just going to be the underframe. As you can see, the top will have radiuses just to keep the top neat, and I'll be able to walk between the two baseboards. Okay, with the extension done, you can see how far I've actually come out. There's an A4 sheet of paper right on the edge of that line there, and it's showing where the new baseboard starts. So let's have a look at the platforms. Okay, here's the plan view of the platforms, and platform 1, platform 2. I'm not exactly sure what happens on this side because there's hardly any photographs of the good side of this station, so I'm going to have to sort of wing it. But on this side, as you saw with the history video, there's lots of photographs, so this side is where the focus is going to be on getting it right. This is the shape of the board I want to cut out of the platform, and this edge, when it's cut, should marry up with this edge. So when I split the board in two, it should be okay to move whatever's left over from that side to this side, but we'll have to wait and see when we cut it. Anyway, the red dotted lines are the extra buildings that's going to be added to the platform as we progress, and we have the signal box there, the water tower, and here I'm just going to add a disused track, maybe just a few sleepers or bits of rails and a buffer stop which is be all rusted up. So the next thing to do is to lay out all the sheets of paper I've got right along the edge of the track to form the shape, because there's a slight bend and it straightens up a little bit there. So let's make a start. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lie the sheets across the tracks and using my finger just perforate the edge so we just get the rails, and then just lie it in there. Then I can mark it with a pencil. It's going to be a long-winded job doing this, but it's the only way I know that I'm going to get the shape of the platform absolutely spot on. Okay, there's the first piece of paper in, so I'll just lie that in. That's virtually on the edge of the platform there, so that's a good start. So what I've done is I've stuck a bit of sellotape on the back, and then so when I come to lay the next bit on, it will just stick automatically. So I shall lie this where I had it before. And then I can just stick the next piece straight on. Ensure it lies flat. As you can see, I've already pre-scored that one. So that's that's it. Just rub your fingers up and down. Okay, I've laid out all the paper, and the total length at the moment as it stands without trimming it is 5 foot 6 inches long. So it should be long enough to get a 4-coach train and a bit more possibly. Okay, now I've trimmed the edge off the paper there, you can actually see the rail. So the next step is to push the paper into the sleepers so I can find an edge so I can get a measurement. I've also stuck the paper down to the baseboard now, so it doesn't move while I do this step. Now that the paper has been trimmed back to the edge of the sleepers, the next step is to actually mark the edge of the platform. Now, I have had a look around the layout, and it's roughly about 12 meters from the edge of that rail there, so I've figured out a way of doing it, so just watch this. Right, with this pencil being clamped to the side of this wagon, it works out that the tip of that pencil to the edge of the track rail is exactly 12 millimeters. So if I just move this forward and backwards, I just get a straight line. And that just marks the edge for me. It works better with a pen, and it still comes out at the same distance, 12 millimeters. I just want to show you something. I'll take the clamp off and then we'll have a look. Oops. Just make sure that when you clamp the pen to the side of a wagon, make sure it's right up against the panelling, not the ironwork, because the ironwork will throw the dimensions out slightly. I have now added sellotape all the way along the edges where we've just marked it, so that when I trim it back we have a nice crisp edge. And with a steady hand we should just be able to just cut through the centre of that. I'm actually using the rail as well. Right, now I've trimmed the edge back and we now have a platform edge. This is where it gets interesting, because now I can start marking out where the buildings are going and where to cut this platform. Okay, I'm going to start marking out for the platforms now. I'm going to come 65 millimeters from the edge and try and keep them in line just by picking out a few points here and there. 65, 65. And 65. Right, I think it's time to look at some photographs and gauge distances. Right, I'm having to revert back to photographs again, because this photograph here shows you what's really going on at the end of the platform, the one I'm trying to mark out. And if I can just zoom in on there, you can see looks like there's an underpass there which has been fenced off. Or some sort of steps leading to maybe the street level. So I'm now going to have to cut a little bit of that away to allow for some steps and also to be fenced off as well. Hence why I've got so many jumbled up lines here, because it's just knowing where to put things. So here would be the original pillar, here would be the cutout for the steps going down. So now I've cleared this end up, I can actually mark out where I'm going to come out with this edge here, which is on the video screen, which is just beyond where you can see there where that roof comes down and in line with that seam in the brickwork there. That's where the building comes out. So with that in mind, I'm almost ready to cut out for the platforms. Okay, we now have both platforms 1 and 2 marked out on this sheet of 18mm MDF. So I'm just waiting for good weather so I can cut them. I have now the platforms in place, and they're looking quite good. When I was marking up the paper template, I couldn't quite visualize what the platforms would look like once they were cut. As you can see, it's 18mm MDF, and I managed to cut 2 out of 1 sheet. This was the original marking out for the platform edge, and this, the other side, was where it was split in 2 and came away. And there's still a bit more work to do on platform 2. I've got to take a millimetre shim off of there. I don't know why, because maybe the track is slightly curved different here than what it is here, even though it's been measured in equal spaces. But on the whole, I am very pleased with the way platform 1 has come out. It's virtually just sat in there. So somewhere in this area here would be some steps going down into the booking hall, which would be here. But I'm way off doing that yet. Way off. And you're probably wondering why I have this oblong cutout here in the platform. Well, there'll be a signal box sitting here, and all the levers would be coming through this section to operate the points. So this would have wooden planking across, like I've seen in the photograph. So that would be an interesting feature to stick with. And there's one photograph I have seen where there is a little bit of a platform with a little wagon sitting here, and the wall of the station is just about here somewhere. So I'm trying to follow what I actually see, and hopefully I'll get it somewhere near right. It's not going to be 100% right, but it's going to be close. Right, platform 2. I've still got more to do on platform 2. As you can see, I've got to trim 10mm to nothing off, just to pretend that there would have been a track running up here to this buffer stop here. Hence why it's been cut there. But that joint will be hidden. You'll not see that joint, but you'll probably see a little bit of this once it's screwed down, but I'm not worried about that too much. But on the whole, it's looking quite good, I think. Right, I'm using this sausage van as a template for a coach, and I'm a little bit way off the edge of the platform at the moment, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick a piece of 2mm card right along that edge, just to form a concrete edge closer towards the coach, so this gap will be a little bit closer to the coach. And then to hide the card, I'm going to cut out some paper and form it into the 3 foot by 2 foot slabs right away along the edge of the platform, and the rest of the platform will be painted. I have cut my card strips. I've cut them 4mm wide, and the card is actually 2mm thick, and as you can see, I'm gluing it straight onto the edge using the old PVA. With the edging on, don't it half change the look over that edge? Right, so that's platform 1 done. Just a few little tips when cutting MDF. When you cut across the grain, like I have here, to form any ramps, I'll always treat it with PVA glue. That's still a bit rough at the moment. It's dry, but it'll need sanding back, so it's nice and smooth, and then treating again. These edges here have already been sanded nice and fine. I'm not worried about these edges because I'm going to put some brick paper on these edges and with the PVA, and that will seal up these edges anyway. With the other edges on this side, that will be sealed whenever I add the brickwork when I come to do the buildings on here. And also, whenever you're cutting MDF, make sure you wear a mask, because it's carcinogenic and it's not good for your lungs. Here at the other end of platform 1, you can actually see the cutout where the rods will come through for operating the points, because the signal box will sit on that platform there. Right, this is the other end of the platform, and as you can see, there's the spur line, which I can either have a locomotive sitting there or maybe a few trucks for offloading goods or whatever. Also, before I stuck the card on the edges, I have scored a line 9mm from the edge all the way down the platform. Don't know if you can see it. The reason being is I'm going to put some paper sheeting from that edge of the line to the edge of the platform to represent the York stones, the big Yorkshire stones. But just before we put the Yorkshire stones on, I'm just going to rub down where I've put the PVA on the edges, and also along where the card has been glued to the side, because that's all dry now. So that's just roughing it up, ready to take the PVA glue when I come to do the stones. So I'll just do that all the way along the edge and that face along there. So what I'm doing here, I'm just scoring some A4 sheets of paper with a pen. I've used this technique before for roofing and other things, so I'm just going to try it out on the Yorkshire stones. So it's 12.5mm that way, and I'll be cutting the strips at 11mm wide, which should just cover up the score mark, or butt up to the score mark that's on the platform. So we shall see how this works. Okay, that took a while to do, so the next thing to do is to cut this sheet of paper into strips of 11mm. Which should just cover up the score line, or come flush with the score line on the platform. So all I'm doing is just putting a little bit of PVA down, not too much. And then with the paper strip, there we have the first set of slabs down. Just hope when I come to paint it, those pressed lines will come through that I made with a pen. I'm doing two things while I'm doing this. I'm sealing the card, which I glued to the edge, and at the same time I'm creating the stone effect. Now I'm still not sure if this is going to work. This is just an experiment, but we're going to have to see when I come to paint it to see whether it's going to look like stone. But for the meantime, it's very effective. You can see I'm not being overzealous with the glue, just putting enough on for the paper to stick. Moving on a bit now, the edges have been done on platform 1, and platform 1 has now been screwed to the baseboard, and all the relevant holes have been filled in. The fillers are still a bit dry on this side. Also on platform 2, I have removed at least 2mm off this edge here and got rid of that bulge that was there, and it looks a lot smoother along the line now. And also as well, that has been glued and screwed to the baseboard as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get platform 2. It's as the same state as platform 1. Okay, that's the stone edge put in for platform 2, and both platforms are in now. They're virtually finished. We've still got to sand the polyfiller down where I've screwed platforms to the baseboards, and yes, just a final check to make sure that the coaches do not clash with the platform. So there's the gap there of about 5mm, so that's more than adequate, especially when the coach comes across from one side to the other. It doesn't hit the platform. So, what can I say? That's all for this week, I guess. The sun is shining, and some good news is my controller has arrived. So hopefully in the next video we'll see some trains moving. So, that's all from me. See you next time. Bye.